Hello everyone, Dr. Polaris here. Of all the many different groups of herbivorous modern mammals, none are more diverse than the bovids. These derived artiodactyls are represented by about 143 living species, and range widely in terms of appearance and niche, from tiny savanna gazelles like the dik-dik, to massive wild cattle such as the gar, which can weigh well over a metric ton. Although members of this family can be found across Eurasia and North America, it's in Africa that Bovidae is at its most diverse, with many subfamilies now being completely endemic to that continent. Genetic testing has shown that bovids are the sister group to the moschids or musk deer, and originated about 20 million years ago during the early Miocene. Initially quite rare animals, bovids probably originated as quite small forest-dwelling forms, with one of the best known early examples being the genus Eotragus. Native to Eurasia and Africa between 18 and 13 million years ago, this animal would have resembled a small modern antelope, with two vertically oriented horns positioned at the top of its skull. About the size of a living muntjac deer, and weighing roughly 18 kilograms, up to 5 species are known, all of which seem to have been browsers that inhabited ecosystems that were intermediates between forests and open grassland. From small generalised forms such as this, bovids split into two major lineages during the early Miocene, with these being Boodontia, which contains the cattle and their relatives, and the staggeringly diverse Agodontia, which includes the antelopes, sheep, goats and wildebeest among many others. Given this diversity, I'll only be covering most of Boodontia in this video, except for the widespread and speciose genus Bos, which is a subject that requires an entire episode in its own right. Boodontia, often referred to as Bovinae, is comprised of 10 modern genera of medium to large-sized ruminants, with general characteristics including cloven hooves and usually at least one of the sexes possessing a pair of true bony horns. While the bovines famously include cattle, which are placed in the tribe Bovini, there are two other less well-known clades within Bovinae, which are confusingly often referred to as antelopes. These include Bosalafini, which are probably the most conservative-looking of all bovids. While quite diverse during the Miocene and Pliocene, being native to Africa and much of Eurasia, only two genera remain today, with both being endemic to the Indian subcontinent. The more modest of the pair is Tetracerus quadricornis, commonly known as the four-horned antelope or chusinga. This small, yellowish tan animal stands up to 64 centimetres or 25 inches tall at the shoulder and weighs about 17 to 22 kilograms or 37 to 49 pounds. Preferring forested areas with access to long grass in which to hide from predators, these animals are diurnal and mostly solitary, although small groups of up to 5 individuals may be seen foraging together. They are typically shy and skittish animals, preferring to freeze when spotted by potential predators such as tigers, leopards and dholes. Four-horned antelopes have fairly broad herbivorous diets, feeding on a variety of grasses, shrubs, flowers and fruit. Once ranging widely across the subcontinent, it now occurs in a patchy range due to the disruption of its preferred forested habitat, with the species classified as vulnerable on the IUCN Red List due to agricultural expansion and human hunting. Its closest living relative is the very different-looking nilgai, a pretty large and robust animal that is quite superficially cow-like in appearance. Indeed, its name means blue cow in Hindi, with nilgai having sturdy builds with elongated slender legs, sloping backs and thick necks. Classified as Boselaphus tragocamelus, the genus is highly sexually dimorphic, with males being significantly larger than females and possessing dark bluish-grey coats. Mature males can stand almost 5 feet tall at the shoulder and weigh up to 288 kilograms or 635 pounds. Meanwhile, the females are tawny-coloured in addition to having more slender builds and lacking horns. A generalist animal, the nilgai can thrive both in forest and open grasslands, with females living in small groups with usually less than 10 individuals. Both sexes will engage in fights for dominance, utilising their sharp horns to inflict damage. When encountering predators such as tigers and leopards, these animals will attempt to run away at great speed. Nilgai are classified as being of least concern, as they are quite abundant, especially in the Terai lowland regions of Nepal and northern India. The second major group of bovines are the members of Tragelaphini. Known as the spiral-horned antelopes and endemic to sub-Saharan Africa, these include the kudus, bushbucks and elands. All are medium to large-sized bovids with relatively long legs, striking coat patterns and distinctive twisting horns. While only 2 genera have survived into modern times and are endemic to Africa, extinct forms were more widespread and occurred in Eurasia during the late Miocene. This was a time of great diversification among bovids, as warm savanna and grassland ecosystems, roughly comparable to those in Holocene East Africa, were commonplace across the northern hemisphere. Tragelaphins are browsers and can be found in a diverse range of habitats, spanning from closed tropical forests to harsh arid regions, although they often require some amount of bushes and thickets in order to hide from predators. These animals can be divided into 2 morphs, with the elands of the genus Taurotragus being the robust variant. There are 2 species of these, which include T. oryx and the rarer T. darbianus. The former is known as the common eland, and, as its name suggests, is widespread across southern and eastern Africa. These are large, bulky animals that, like other bovines, display prominent sexual dimorphism, with males being significantly larger than females, standing over 5 feet tall at the shoulder and weighing up to 1,000 kilograms or 2,200 pounds. Males also tend to possess darker greyish coats and prominent fleshy dewlaps that hang down from their throats. Females are tan-coloured and dwell in large herds of up to 500 individuals, while males live either in smaller groups or forage alone. Elands are the slowest of the African antelopes, but can be formidable when cornered, striking at predators such as lions, African painted dogs and spotted hyenas with their sharp spiralling horns. Elands are mostly browsers that require a high-protein diet, feeding on leaves, shrubs and grasses, although can switch to grazing during the rainy season. Due to their mild temperaments and tolerance of harsh climatic conditions, elands have been successfully domesticated for meat and milk production in South Africa. Meanwhile, the giant eland, T. darbianus, is an even larger animal, with a more northerly disjunct range. Bulls can weigh up to 1,200 kilograms or 2,650 pounds, which is comparable to large wild cattle. Both sexes possess reddish-brown to chestnut-coloured smooth coats, accented with slim vertical white stripes. A western subspecies can be found mostly in Senegal and is critically endangered, with only 200 or so animals remaining, while the eastern subspecies has a population centred in Cameroon, the Central African Republic and South Sudan, although it was once more widespread across the Sahel and is now classified as vulnerable. The other genus within Tragelaphini is the diverse Tragelaphus, which are smaller and more gracile than the elands. Although saying that, some species such as the forest-dwelling bongo, T. Uriceras, are still pretty large, with big males weighing almost 900 pounds. These striking animals possess beautiful reddish-brown coats, complete with white vertical stripes, as well as tall lyre-shaped horns. Skittish nocturnal browsers that feed on leaves, fruit and vines, there are 2 distinct subspecies, with these being the more common lowland bongo of Central and Western Africa, and the critically endangered mountain bongo of Kenya. Other members of the genus are far more widespread, such as the adaptable Cape bushbuck Tragelaphus sylvaticus. These small solitary animals can be found in a wide range of ecosystems, inhabiting most non-desert regions of Africa below the Sahara. Weighing 45 to 80 kilograms, or between 99 and 176 pounds, bushbucks are browsers that claim large territories but are not antisocial, sometimes tolerating other individuals on their home patch. Other larger members of the genus include the 2 species of kudu, which are native to southern and eastern Africa. Both are browsers that prefer mixed scrub woodland and tend to avoid more open areas in order to avoid predators. To cap off this diverse range of species is the Sitatunga, a close relative of the bongos, which is native to swampy and marshland ecosystems across a vast area of central and southern Africa that stretches from Ghana to Botswana. Spending much of their time wading in bodies of water and browsing on reeds, bulrushes and aquatic grasses, males possess dark chocolate brown coats, while females are smaller and more lightly coloured. While classified as being of least concern, Their numbers are still declining due to habitat loss and degradation. Meanwhile, the third and final subgroup of bovinae is the clade Bovini, which contains the wild cattle. Originating about 15 million years ago in southern Asia, which even today possesses the highest number of species, members of this group are medium to very large-sized bovids. Most are muscular, stout-bodied animals with comparatively short legs that are built for power rather than speed, in addition to the presence of smooth horns in both sexes. Bovines diversified greatly during the late Miocene and Pliocene, spreading first across Eurasia and then into Africa before finally entering North America during the Pleistocene. While many modern species have been domesticated by humans and are very familiar to numerous cultures around the world, the earliest bovines would not have been very cow-like in appearance, instead being forest-dwelling animals that more closely resembled antelopes. A case in point would be the modern and enigmatic Saola, which is the most basal known member of Bovini. Endemic to high-altitude wet evergreen forest in the Annamite mountain range of Vietnam and Laos, this animal was only officially described in 1993, although it had of course been known to local people for millennia. Due to its rarity and the inaccessibility of its habitat, relatively few images of the Saola exist, most of which are taken from camera traps. It quite closely resembles the aforementioned African members of Bovinae in size and niche, being a solitary antelope-like browser that stands about 1 metre or 3 feet 3 inches tall. Its coat is dark brown, with white markings on the face and rump, while the horns are elongated and backward curving. Despite its appearance, the Saola is a basal member of Bovini, with its closest relatives being the many species of wild and domestic cattle. Placed in the genus Oryx, the Saola lineage probably diverged during the Middle Miocene at least 15 million years ago, with it recently being suggested to be a close relative of the extinct Myotragus from late Miocene Eurasia. Sadly, recent reports have failed to confirm any credible sightings of the Saola in the wild, with it being feared that the animal may be functionally extinct. I really hope this isn't the case, but even so, the future does look rather bleak for this small bovine. From forms similar to the Saola emerged the more familiar robust cow-like bovines, which adapted well to the spread of more open grasslands and savannas during the second half of the Miocene. They also grew larger and bulkier, while many forms adapted for living in large herds as a means of defence against predators. Two major lineages split off from each other roughly 13.7 million years ago, with these being Bubalina, which contains the true buffaloes, and Bovina, which includes the many diverse species in the genus Bos. Bubalina probably originated in Eurasia and possesses a fairly extensive fossil record. These include Parabos from the late Miocene and Pliocene of Mediterranean Europe, as well as the widespread Hemibos, a large grazing animal native to much of Eurasia from the late Miocene to the Middle Pleistocene. It may have been ancestral to the modern Asian water buffaloes of the genus Bubalus. There are 5 living species of these, which are endemic to much of tropical and subtropical Asia. While ranging greatly in size, members of Bubalus tend to possess dark-coloured short coats, large heads with convex narrow foreheads, and very solidly built limbs. Unlike some of the species within the genus Bos, Bubalins are not tolerant of colder climatic conditions. The most famous of these is probably the wild water buffalo Bubalus arni, as well as its domesticated descendant Bubalus bubalis. This formidable beast is native to a fairly patchy distribution that ranges across the Indian subcontinent, Thailand and Cambodia, although during the earlier Holocene it was also present across much of Southeast Asia. With ash-grey to black hides and sporting impressive widely curving horns that can span over 2 metres across, water buffaloes are one of the largest bovid species. Bulls can reach over 6 feet tall at the shoulder and weigh in at up to 1,200 kilograms or 2,600 pounds. Dwelling in swampy conditions and mostly being adapted for grazing, water buffaloes generally live in sex-segregated groups, with females and their calves forming stable clans of up to 30 individuals. Bulls form smaller bachelor herds, with the oldest and largest males being mostly solitary. Adults are predated upon by tigers and mugger crocodiles, although these carnivores prefer to target young or sick individuals. Its domesticated descendant, B. bubalis, can be found across southern and eastern Asia, where these sturdy bovines are utilised for their meat and raw power, which is incredibly useful for a variety of agricultural tasks. Other wild members of Bubalus include the critically endangered tamarau, which is now endemic to the island of Mindoro in the Philippines. Much smaller than the water buffalo, weighing between 400 and 660 pounds, this animal is restricted to highland tropical forests and is largely solitary, with only 30 to 200 individuals remaining in the wild. This is followed by the not quite as rare anoas of Indonesia. The endangered lowland anoa, Bubalus depressicornis, is similar in size to the tamarau, and can be differentiated from its even smaller relative, the mountain anoa, by its greater mass and more sparse body hair. The mountain anoa, Bubalus quelsi, is the smallest species of wild cattle in the world, averaging about 220 kilograms or 485 pounds. In addition to these modern species, a variety of extinct forms once ranged across Eurasia during the Pleistocene, including the poorly known and rare Bubalus murensis from the mid to late Pleistocene of Europe. Between 8 and 9 million years ago, Bubalians entered Africa for the first time, giving rise to the genus Ugandax, which was widespread from the late Miocene to the Pleistocene. It was probably ancestral to the modern genus Syncerus, which contains the African buffaloes. This lineage arose during the Pliocene, giving rise to the modern Cape buffalo Syncerus caffa, as well as the massive S. antiquus from the Pleistocene and potentially the Holocene as recently as 4,000 years ago. This was the most massive bovine to have ever lived in Africa, with bulls potentially weighing up to 2 metric tons. The species dwelt across the majority of the continent between circa 107,000 and 13,000 years ago, with rock art from across the modern Sahara indicating that the animal may have persisted into the Holocene. S. antiquus is most famous for its enormous, widely spreading curved horns that could measure up to 3 meters or 10 feet long, which would have limited the species to open grassland ecosystems, with isotopic evidence suggesting that it was a specialised grazer. It was not directly ancestral to the modern African buffalo S. caffa, which first appeared during the Middle Pleistocene circa 700,000 years ago. With up to 5 subspecies, this large temperamental bovine is native to much of sub-Saharan Africa, possessing an elongated torso, a robust build, and comparatively short, thick-set legs. The different subspecies range quite widely in size and colour. The largest is the Cape buffalo, which can be found across southern and eastern Africa. Adults can reach 870 kilograms or 1,918 pounds in mass, and are dark-coloured and have formidable upward curving horns. Able to live in a variety of environments, these are among the most successful herbivores on the continent, moving across the landscape in large herds. These provide a formidable barrier to most predators, with members of the herd defending each other when attacked by lions, their only major predator aside from humans. Unlike their distant Asian relatives, these bovines have never been successfully domesticated. Other subspecies, such as the forest buffalo Syncerus caffa nanus, are significantly smaller, being about half the size of its plains-dwelling cousin. They also possess a much lighter reddish coat and much smaller horns. This subspecies is native to tropical rainforests of Central and Western Africa, although prefer more open clearings in which to graze. The only predators to target fully grown adults are Nile crocodiles, with leopards occasionally taking calves. Outside of the clade Bubalina lies its sister group, the diverse Bovina, which contains the many species belonging to the highly successful genus Bos, as well as its extinct relatives, which diverged from the Bubalians over 13 million years ago. However, given that there's so much to say about this lineage, I'll have to save them for a future video. Thanks for watching everyone, and thank you to my patrons for suggesting that I cover this topic. Bovids are so diverse that it'll take quite a few videos to cover them all, with the next episode focusing on the aforementioned members of Bovina. See you again soon. Cheerio.